Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I focus on everything luxury beauty and fashion. If you're interested in the latest fashion and beauty trends as well as luxury vlogs, then you are in the right place. Today we're going to talk about the beautiful holiday collection that was just launched by Chanel. I can't wait to walk you through all the products that are included in this launch, including the star of the show, which is this eyeshadow palette that features very trendy colors and is very unique compared to the previously launched holiday collections. I also want to talk about the price points of this year's holiday collection compared to the permanent collection as well as last year's holiday collection. I'm also going to do some swatch comparisons versus some of the very recently launched eyeshadows such as the fall 2025 collection, because I do see some similar shades. And as usual, I'm also going to do a demo at the end of this video to help you understand the product performance as well as the looks that you can create with these products. So if that's something that you're interested in, please make sure that you continue watching. For those of you that are new to this channel, hello and welcome. On this channel, we cover a lot of the latest beauty launches. As an example, I covered all of this year's Dior holiday launch, which I'm going to link down below in case you're interested. I also talked about this year's Chanel holiday gift sets. And if you enjoyed this video, please make sure that you like this video and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate your support in terms of helping me to create this community full of fashion beauty lovers. And without any further ado, let's dive into today's video. So why don't we start the video by talking about all the products that are included in this collection. And as usual, this is a massive launch because it is the holiday collection. The star of the show is always the eyeshadow palette, which kind of sets the tone of the looks that you can create. And this year, they didn't introduce a oversized palette like the previous years. They introduced a palette that's very similar to the permanent collection, but just very different color stories as well as embossing. And this eyeshadow palette is priced at 91 Canadian dollars. This palette is actually cheaper than the fall 2025 collection, which is priced at 110 Canadian dollars or 86 US dollars. So we're talking about a 15% saving compared to the fall collection. Now moving on to the highlighter, which I would say is another highly anticipated product from this collection. So this one retails for 75 US dollars or 96 Canadian dollars, which is slightly higher than the regular collection, which is priced at $60 or 78 Canadian dollars. But I do want to point out that even though this palette looks quite small, it looks very similar to the permanent collection, but I think it's a lot thicker. And because of that, you do have quite a bit more products compared to the permanent collection. So this palette has a weight of 14 grams, whereas the regular highlighter has a weight of 8.5 grams. So we're talking about a 65% increase in the amount of products that are contained in this palette. You know, even though you are paying about 25% more compared to the permanent collection, you're getting 65% more products. So overall, the price per unit of product is actually lower within this palette. Plus, you get the beautiful embossing, which you don't really get from the permanent collection. So I would say this palette is actually priced pretty well compared to what you can get normally from Chanel. And I also want to compare this one versus the oversized holiday palette. The weight of this product is actually the same as the oversized palette, even though the appearance of it is a little bit misleading. So both palettes weigh 14 grams, and the price of this palette is actually a lot cheaper compared to the oversized palette. We're talking about around 20% savings in both the Canada and the US markets. So I would say this palette is actually priced quite well, and it is quite portable if you do want to carry it on the go compared to the oversized palette. The pigmentation is quite weak on that palette, but what I will say is that if you mix the two colors together, it gives you that very nice pearlescent finish, which is very elegant. The reason why I pick up the pink one is because I think it has a little bit more brightening effect, which I like in my makeup looks. but the other one, the more brownish color, I think is more natural looking if that's what you're going for. And similar to last year, they also introduced 2 shades into the Rouge Allure Liquid lipstick collection. And this product is priced the same as the permanent collection at $50 or 62 Canadian dollars. And the regular Rouge Allure Velvet Bullet Lipstick also had a few new limited edition shades, which are priced slightly higher, about 5% higher compared to the permanent collection at $52 or 66 Canadian dollars. And I also picked up an eyeliner in the orange shade, which I think is very unique and beautiful. And this product retails about the same as the regular collection at $42 or 54 Canadian dollars. They also introduced a very interesting shade into the mascara collection in the shade number 77, which is a grayish blue color, which is priced at 57 Canadian dollars, which I believe is the same as the permanent collection. Now, in terms of nail polish, there are 2 new shades. One is a purplish blue shade, which follows the eyeshadow theme very well, and the other one is an orange shade with a metallic finish, which is the color that I'm wearing today. And this nail polish retails for $33 or 46 Canadian dollars, which is the same as the permanent collection. Now, in addition to the regular holiday launch, Chanel also introduced some oversized product this year, which is quite interesting. So they introduced a night color eyeshadow pen at the price of $160 or 198 Canadian dollars, and there are 3 shades. And I think the most popular one based on Instagram feeds is the blue and the green one. I'm happy to do another video on that if you guys are interested, but I didn't purchase any of the 3 palettes. They also introduced 3 new shades into the high-end lipstick collection, 31 Le Rouge. There's the number 7, which is a light pink color, and that's already sold out online. There's also another number 11, and that one is sold out online as well. And the third color is a purplish pink, color number 9, and I think they are all very beautiful colors. And I'm going to talk about the formula of this lipstick towards the end of the video, and I did use this lipstick in my demo today as well. I'm going to talk about whether this lipstick is worth it compared to the Rouge Allure collection, so please stay tuned if you want to find out more about this lipstick. So that summarizes all the products that are included in this launch, and I do want to talk about this year's packaging before we move on to talk about the product performance and the swatches. So because this year's theme is the Winter Constellation, so the packaging takes on a very dark background to kind of imitate the night sky with a lot of stars, and the Chanel logo is surrounded by a lot of the signature Chanel elements, such as the camellia flower in 3 tones, gold, rose gold, and silver, as well as lion, which you can also see that in the embossing of the eyeshadow palette. And this year's charm features a camellia flower charm with a little star charm on the side, and there's also another charm that's kind of the opposite with a bigger star charm and a smaller camellia charm. Both are very nice, and this year's charms are a lot more weighty compared to last year's charm, and I think they can make the perfect fashion jewelry if you convert that into a necklace. So I highly recommend you to go into the boutique and collect this year's packaging, because I do think it is very unique and very elegant. In terms of packaging, I also want to point out that both palettes, the highlighter and the eyeshadow palette, came in this very standardized Chanel eyeshadow palette. The only difference is on the side, you do see a little bit of a different color compared to the permanent collection, but there's nothing else that's really standing out. In terms of the velvet pouch, you're getting a very standard velvet pouch compared to the permanent collection. And if you guys watched my fall 2025 beauty collection from Chanel, you know that that collection featured very unique designs on the velvet pouch. Each eyeshadow palette had a different design, which is not something that I care about because this velvet pouch gets dusty very soon and I don't really carry that around on the go, but I do want to point that out in case you care about the velvet pouch. One thing that's really interesting in terms of packaging that I noticed is the highlighter palette. So as mentioned earlier, that this palette weighs a lot more than the permanent collection, even though the size of it is the same as the regular collection. And if you know that for the regular highlighter collection, Chanel will usually include a brush inside of this palette. So when you open up the palette, the first thing that you see is the brush, and then you lift the lid over, that's when you see the products. Whereas for this highlighter, when you open the palette, you see the product immediately, which means this product packed a lot thicker compared to the regular highlighter. And then you have a separate little velvet pouch which contains the brush that you usually see when you purchase the Chanel highlighter palettes. So I do think this is very interesting change. And I don't really have a strong preference because I don't really use those brushes that Chanel provides because they tend to be very small and they're not the best brushes, I would say, for application purposes. So doesn't really impact me, but I do think it's interesting that they changed the packaging design this year. And if you guys watched my holiday collection review last year, you know that typically for the holiday collection, Chanel would use a gold logo in the front as opposed to the white logo that you usually see in a permanent collection. I personally prefer the gold logo, but again, not a deal breaker because purple has been a trendy color for almost 2 years now, I would say. There are some shades in previously launched palettes that I think are similar to this year's holiday eyeshadow palette, so I do want to do some comparisons, and I hope that this video can help you understand the difference between some of the shades in the fall 2025 launch, which is still available for sale, by the way, on the Chanel website, versus the holiday collection, so that you can make a decision which palette to pick up. So with that, let's talk about the blue shade in this palette, which I think is probably the star shade because it kind of sets the tone for the entire color story. So this blue shade is very, very beautiful. It has a little bit of glitter in it, and then it has a satin finish. So this color on the pan looks quite light, but if you compare this against the fall collection 229, you will see that there's also a blue color there, which is kind of the center shade. And if you compare the pens side by side, you can tell that the holiday shade is a lot more glittery and brighter compared to the fall 2025 collection, and that's what you see on the swatches as well, where the holiday collection is a lot more glittery and brighter. So I personally prefer the holiday shade compared to this one. Another color that's worth comparing is the purple color from the fall collection versus the purple color in this pen. And as you can see, if you put those palettes side by side, those two purple colors are very different, where the fall collection's purple color is a lot deeper and it has a lot of glitters in it as well compared to the holiday collection, which has more of a satin finish and is leaning more blue than purple. And I also compared the pink highlighter shade with the pink palette that's from the fall 2025 collection. The pink color over here is actually deeper than the highlighter color. So I just want to give you a little bit of point of reference in case you already own this palette, you know what to expect from the highlighter palette, but both colors are very weak in terms of pigmentation. So if that's something that you do care about, I wouldn't recommend this palette or the highlighter palette. Now, in terms of the nail polish, I want to mention that if you guys collected last year's Chanel nail polish, such as this fall color, which I think will go very, very well with the holiday eyeshadow palette, and if you also own the holiday nail polish from last year, I think it will go pretty well as well. So you probably don't have to pick up this year's colors. So I just want to bring that up in case you already own those two shades from last year. I also want to show you guys the swatch comparison between the two eyeliners that were launched this year. Both are very, very beautiful. I believe the red one was the one that's used in the lion look online, if you check out the official Chanel pictures. But the one that I picked up is the orange color, which I think is very, very special. You don't really see that color very much. That eyeliner has a metallic finish and it's very long lasting. I tested this color on the back of my hand and I run water through it, and as you can see, it's very waterproof, so it's going to last all day long. And a lot of people think the eyeshadow palette is the star of the show for this entire collection, which it usually is. But in my view, the star of the show is actually this eyeliner paired with eyeshadow palette. So if you want to find out more about that, please wait until the demo section. Now let's talk about the makeup look that I have done. So I did 2 looks today. One of them is more daytime look with the eyeshadow color and the other one with the eyeliner, and I'm going to talk about that in a bit. But the most basic look that I did was with this eyeshadow palette. I started with the darkest shade, which is what I always do to kind of create a little bit dimension by going over the crease with this darkest color in the palette. I do think the performance of this color is pretty good, and I like it how it's a little bit muted to give you that very mysterious type of look. And it's quite blendable, and I like it how this shade is not very glittery, because otherwise it will be very, very messy for a crease shade. So I do like that about it. And then I went over that with this shade over here, which is kind of a deep purple, but it's quite glittery. The pigmentation level is not as high for this color compared to this one. And to be honest with you, I feel like these 2 colors are a little bit close together, if you know what I mean. I would have hoped if they have introduced a silver color for the inner corner, as opposed to having 2 purple shades that are quite close together. And then I went into the center of my lid with this purple color over here. I think it's a beautiful color, and I applied this color wet. For glittery and center of the lid shades, I like to apply using my finger because I think that's how you get the most impact out of the product. And then I used this blue shade in the inner corner. I like it how it has that brightening effect, and it really lightened up my inner corner. So overall, I think this is a very beautiful, mysterious, and elegant look. And if you want to take it a step further to have more of a unique look that stands out from the crowd, I will recommend using the eyeliner that was launched. And again, the color that I picked up was 542, which is the orange color. And what I did was I basically just added a little bit of liner at the end to lighten up the entire look, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. And again, as mentioned, this color is very water resistant, so it is going to last all night long. And I also got the matching nail polish, which I think is a perfect combo for this look. And then I move on to the highlighter, and I like it how this color is really muted. It gives you that very elegant look that you're not trying too hard. Although I feel like this color is more suitable in a spring collection, but I do like how it showed up on my cheek. And then I went over the white color over here as a little bit of highlight. Because this palette is not so pigmented, you can't really see much of a difference, but I do think overall you create a very elegant look that's very typical of Chanel products. And for the lipstick, I used the 31 Le Rouge. It's not one of the limited edition shades, but I do have a light pink color in my collection, so I used that one instead. And the color that I use is number 23 Rouge Accessory, and it's in a matte color. And I'm happy to do another review on the Rouge Allure collection. I bought 2 sets of the lipsticks, so 6 colors in total, with both satin and matte finish, as well as the wooden trunk. I do think it's a pretty good purchase, especially with the wooden trunk. I think it's something that every Chanel collector should have, and I'm happy to talk about it in more detail. Now let's talk about my final thoughts. So I would say overall, I'm pretty happy with all the products that I picked up. I do think this year's holiday eyeshadow palette is very unique in terms of the color story as well as the product performance, so I do recommend it. It is slightly more than the permanent collection, but you can't really find those shades in the permanent collection, and it is much cheaper than the fall collection, so I think it is still pretty good value as far as Chanel is concerned. And if you're debating in between the fall collection, such as this purple palette or this blue palette versus the holiday collection, I would say go with the holiday collection because it is cheaper and it's more special from a color story perspective. The only palette that I would recommend from the fall collection is this purple one, but again, you're paying so much more for the embossing without much extra products. So I would say you do want to keep that in mind before getting this palette. And I will say that if you do have a budget constraint, I wouldn't really recommend the highlighter just because I think the color payoff is not the best. But if you do not have any Chanel highlighters in your collection, maybe you can consider it, because as mentioned, the price per unit of this product is actually better than the permanent collection. You're getting much more products than the price increase. So from that perspective, I will recommend it if you don't have any Chanel highlighters. Now, in terms of the eyeliner, I do recommend this one because I think the color is very unique and the quality is quite high. It is a very long-lasting product, and it will kind of give you that extra kick to your holiday look. So I do recommend that. Now, in terms of the nail polish, I personally really like this red color that I got, which matches the eyeliner. But if you do have last year's colors, such as these two from the fall collection and the holiday collection, I would say you probably don't need to pick up this year's collection because these two colors match pretty well with the eyeshadow palette that we have over here. In terms of the Rouge Allure lipstick, I personally like it very much, but I'm also aware that the price point is so high given that it is just a lipstick. So some of the products that I would recommend that performs very similarly but at a cheaper price point is the Guerlain lipstick. It feels very similar on the lips. The product is very hydrating and long-lasting. And then when you apply it, you can kind of feel that the lipstick is not super watery, but comfortable on the lips, if you know what I mean. So I do think it's a very good formula, but it is very overpriced. And I hope that this video has been helpful in terms of helping you to understand all the products that were introduced as part of this year's holiday collection. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment down below and I will try my best to answer your questions. As mentioned, I have a lot of interesting content coming up. I am going to do a detailed review of this year's Dior sequin lipsticks, as well as some of the other beauty launches. So if that's something that you're interested in, please make sure that you like this video and subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss out. And I look forward to seeing you in my next video.